Have you ever had a week that was complete mayhem? Maybe you're experiencing it right now and it feels like a bomb has gone off in your life. And now there's confusion and debris everywhere. How do you weather this type of storm when it lands? And how do you stay indistractable and still creating in the midst of chaos? In today's episode, I want to give you the tools you need to do exactly this because, honey, sometimes the storms just keep on coming and you have got to have what it takes to ride every single wave. Hey, Creating Maven. I'm Joy Spencer, your Reframe specialist, with one important message. Your real work, it's not your job or your career. Your real work is what you create. And what you create is what sets you apart and makes you incomparable. It's your legacy. I'm here to show you a whole new way of working so you can create with your gifts, make a unique contribution, and finally get paid to be yourself. This is Reframe to Create. What is chaos? We know what it is theoretically. Storms, explosions, disorder, mayhem, the aftermath of natural disasters, maybe your closet. But in the world of work, sometimes the chaos takes on a different form because people are too sensible for all that obvious mess. Chaos in work comes in subtle but still very insidious forms. It's the constantly shifting priorities, or the complete lack of them in the first place. It's the Hunger Games of pitting employees against each other for what they know are limited scraps of approval and recognition. It's the ladder that's presented as the thing that you need to climb to make it up to the pinnacle of success. Ah, yes. Let's talk about that ladder and the chaos that it really is. If you've watched Game of Thrones, you know what the character Littlefinger said about chaos. And I quote, "Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder." And if you've never watched Game of Thrones, don't bother. It ends badly. All you need to know is that Littlefinger is a good-for-nothing, manipulative, backstabbing traitor who plays games with people's lives while hiding in the shadows because he feels it'll give him the power that he wants. For some of you, this is just a normal day at the office. And Littlefinger is some guy in accounting named John. Sorry to all the wonderful and great guys in accounting named John. You get my point. But seriously, I don't agree with Littlefinger. Chaos is not a ladder. Chaos is chaos. And worse still, the ladder that many of us have been sold that we need to climb is itself the reason and source of so much chaos in the office and in our lives. Even if chaos is a ladder that you as a creating maven must not climb. If you listen to episode 1, The Dream Job is Dead, you know that I straddle two worlds. I work internally in an organization where I'm an executive leadership and storytelling coach, officially working as an organizational development consultant. And I also have my own coaching practice on the outside, where I do coaching, including storytelling coaching, workshops, webinars, and of course, this podcast. So I'm living in two worlds. Both the world of the employee who is an intrapreneur and a creating maven on the inside, and also an entrepreneur and a creating maven on the outside. So what I'm going to share today is thanks to my internal role, where recently I got a solid reminder about chaos and what it means to be indistractable and still able to create in the midst of it. So what exactly was this chaos? Lack of clarity and a perceived threat to positional power and control. And my knee-jerk reaction was to try to control the situation, to bring order back to chaos, to try to change things. And when I couldn't, I got myself all worked up. I felt threatened. And this sucked so much of my mental and emotional energy because really, I had no real control over this thing. But still, I was trying and I was raging internally against the machine. And so I got distracted and I felt very negative. I was spiraling. And you probably know what this is like. You know, you've had those situations at work where you feel like other people are just throwing in bombs, creating chaos, shifting things around, changing priorities, and it can feel like mayhem. And then you feel like you can't concentrate. You feel like you can't advance, you can't make momentum, and you're somehow sinking. And all you want to do is try to fix the situation around you so that you can get some solid footing. And before you know it, you're hours deep into a venting session with colleagues and friends. And guess what hasn't changed? That thing that you can't control. And the worst thing now is that the chaos that started out there is now in here. It's now inside of you. And you didn't even notice when the shift was happening. By now, you're like a raging lunatic. And guess what stopped happening? Creating. Your creating power is completely gone. While you were being distracted by the chaos, it was getting sucked up and completely disappeared. Both Littlefinger and I are wrong. Chaos is not a ladder to climb, as he said, nor is it something to control, as I was trying to do. Chaos is a storm. And you might be tempted to think all you need to do is just get into the eye of a storm where it's calm. But nah, it's more than that. You don't need to get into the eye of the storm. You need to be the eye of the storm. If you're going to be a creating maven, that is, if you're going to be a person who consistently creates with your gifts so that you can derive the highest level of satisfaction in your work and essentially get paid to be yourself, you need to be the eye of the storm. If you're going to maintain your creating power in all circumstances, you need a reframe on chaos. You need to be armed with a reframe on chaos for every single time that it arises in whatever form that it comes. You're not going to try to climb it or control it. You're going to be its eye. And this is how you're going to do it. 1, accept the chaos. Accepting something does not, I repeat, it does not mean you're co-signing or okay with it. What it does mean is that your eyes are open and you see things clearly. You're not rejecting or denying reality. You're not pretending that gravity doesn't exist and then jumping out of an airplane expecting to fly. No, your head is screwed on straight and you're not screaming at the hurricane. You see it for what it is. And furthermore, your acceptance means you won't absorb and take the chaos into yourself. Because that's what happens to people who try to change, rage, and fight with the storm. People who, like me on that day in the office, don't accept what is happening. The chaos becomes internalized when you refuse to accept it. I know this is counterintuitive, but it's real. But if you accept it, you can stand still in it. You can plant your feet firmly and become the eye of the storm. So what does it look like when you specifically are accepting the storms and the chaos that's in your job? It looks like you seeing, but not putting energy into questioning, why is this happening? When you whine that type of question, it comes from a mind that is, 1, taking the chaos personally, which it's not, and 2, believing you're its victim, which you're not. In those moments, instead of asking the question, why is this happening? Instead, you need to say, this is happening. Feel the difference? Do you feel a sense of self-control and power when you say that? Because becoming indistractable and immune to chaos is not about trying to control it, but about being in full possession and control of yourself so that the only thing inside of you is you. I had to use this reframe of accepting the chaos just the other day while I was out on my daily walk. So I take daily walks, and one of these days I was walking and, listening to my podcast, and there was this intersection where there was a stop sign. And obviously I knew the car would need to stop at the intersection just before I was crossing. And I saw this car coming from my left, and it was just sort of slowly rolling towards the intersection. And I kept looking out of the side of my eye, and I said, I know this car is going to stop at the intersection. I know this car is going to stop. And I was already past where the car would have had to stop in the crosswalk. But I watched this car just sort of roll through the intersection and make a turn. And I was just so irritated because I keep going off about how drivers in DC are just trash drivers. So in my mind, I just start talking about this is why people are terrible drivers. This is unsafe driving. You have to be alert in your environment. You can't just be rolling through stop signs, even though I could see the car. And I was going off. And then I realized I had become so chaotic on the inside. I wasn't just accepting the situation for what it was, because this is what it is. There are just bad and trash drivers everywhere, especially in DC. And so I realized that I was just losing all of my peace and just feeling very chaotic. And I didn't want that to be what the rest of my walk was. So when I got to the next intersection, I was able to do something different, which is what is point 2 that I'm going to share that you need to do. 2 is you need to expect more chaos. Once you've accepted the chaos that exists, this is your next step, to expect that there will be more. Expecting chaos doesn't mean you're cynical, negative, or a pessimist. Don't let those positivity terrorists make you feel bad about expecting chaos. All you're doing is staying plugged into reality. And what this allows you to do that others fail to do is prepare, which is being in a state of proactivity. You'll be mentally and emotionally able to prepare instead of getting caught off guard and being shocked and bothered over and over again. Something that is not good for your nerves at all. So as I was sharing about my walk, after side-eyeing the driver who rolled through one intersection, when I got to the next intersection, I was prepared for the foolishness. I forced myself to be alert and to accept, that this happens. This is happening. And so because of that, I was able to not zone out in my head where I was deeply lodged because I was listening to the podcast. And when I got to the next intersection, I lifted my head a little higher. I wasn't using my peripheral vision. I looked directly at traffic and I didn't feel like a victim. So I didn't act like one. I wasn't expecting drivers to drive perfectly. I was expecting that some drivers drive badly. And this helped me to prepare and be alert and not just, get run over to prove a point, even when I had the right of way. And this can help you as well in your life, in work, just to know and accept that chaos is the thing that happens, and disorder and confusion and change, and accepting it without whining that why is this happening or why does it have to be this way, but just knowing and just saying ahead of time, this is what happens. And then to prepare, to expect it, that second point, because you know that some things are going to happen that are just going to be chaotic and you don't have to be caught off guard by it. So those are the first 2. 1, to accept the chaos, and 2, to expect it and prepare. And 3, you want to Marie Kondo yourself in the chaos. If you're into decluttering or organizing your space, then you know about Marie Kondo. In fact, even if you're not, you probably know about her from her popular Netflix show, Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. And so she is a tidying up consultant, and she has this method for cleaning and decluttering that she calls the KonMari method, and it has actually gone global. I've never tried to implement her method, but I've had a very enjoyable time watching her put other people through it and see just all these delightful results. It's really fun to watch her working with people, going through their homes, helping them to get their lives back from their clutter. So I've decided to start using her name to describe when I am cutting out clutter and focusing on what sparks joy for me in my life. And that's something she talks about, choosing and what you're going to keep based on what sparks joy. So I don't just try to Marie Kondo my physical space. I Marie Kondo my whole life, and I Marie Kondo my job all the time. It's an ongoing thing. But the most important thing I realize that I need to Marie Kondo, and that you need to as well, is me. All this means when I say Marie Kondo yourself in the chaos is that you got to be hyper-focused on managing yourself, your emotions, your reactions to everything. And I'm a frequent failure in this regard, but I keep trying again and again. And you know what? I think I'm getting better. I have some days when I can't keep it together, but those are fewer and far between. This is a muscle, and it's a worthwhile effort for you to work at it. Because the best way to manage yourself and stand prepared for this inevitable chaos that I keep talking about, so that you don't get swept up, is to reestablish your boundaries. If you listen to episode 20, you know that I believe that boundaries are not about saying no. Boundaries are not about just keeping other people out, but they're about keeping you in your lane, keeping you in integrity, keeping you honoring your values, keeping you being about your business that you've set out to do. And when I say that it's not about saying no, it's because I believe that it's about saying yes. Specifically, it's about saying a big, loud, resounding yes to your level 10 yes priority thing. And so when a storm of chaos starts to rage in your life, there's no better anchor than already knowing what you want and care most deeply about. That thing needs to be at the forefront and not in the back of your mind because it's protective. It stands like armor, and you have to have it clearly by your side before and not after the chaos has begun. You have to take Marie's advice and be hyper-focused on what sparks joy for you in your work. And you need to put your energy again and again towards bringing that to the forefront. Again. So that's how you become indistractable in chaotic times and stop that chaos from getting into you. You, 1, accept the chaos. Then you, 2, expect more. And finally, you are always in the process of Marie Kondoing yourself in the midst of it and reminding yourself, what's your level 10 yes? What is it that sparks joy? And then you get to work just clearing out the things that don't support it and highlighting the things that do. Again. And I keep saying you'll need to do this again because this is an ongoing thing. There's no perfection here. But what you want is to be committed to the process again and again. It's so tempting to want to control circumstances and other people, to figure out that one thing you can do to bring everything to order or to convince people to quit being so messy and chaotic. But this is a fool's errand. It's pointless to try to control other people. You ultimately truly can't. We think we're anxious because we have no control, when in fact we're anxious because we're trying to be in control. Oh, I know people try, and I know the allure of power over things, over others, and over situations, and trying to amass all of it can be really tempting, but there are just too many people who are clamoring about in this game of chaos. And this game and this ladder is not for you. If you want to be a true creating maven, and I know that you do, if you're really committed to this 6-step create journey I've been walking you through since episode 1, then you need this reframe to stick. You can't and shouldn't try to manage and control chaos out there, but you can and should focus on managing yourself. This is step 2 of the CREATE framework. Reframe your environment. Only this time, the environment is internal. This episode's idea actually came to me on a day when I was really, really feeling the chaos. I thought, how can I channel this and take my energy back? And that's when I thought, okay, let me not let this chaotic day go to waste. I can create with it. And you can commit to the same. On those days that are most chaotic, you can just stop, pause, and just accept it. And just say, this is happening. And there will be more chaos coming. So you expect it. But you can do better than trying to climb the ladder, as Littlefinger might advise you, or try to control it, as I tried to do in the early days. And you can manage yourself. Just focus on what sparks joy. Focus on your level 10 yes, and get back to creating. Being indistractable in chaos is not being perfectly stoic and unmovable in the midst of chaos. You would have to be a robot to do that. No, it's more active than that. It's about getting your attention back faster when you do lose it than you would have done before. And you can do this with what I've shared with you today. Now, I know I told you earlier not to bother with Game of Thrones because it ends badly as a show, but if you do venture into it, there is one character that I kept thinking about when I was prepping for this episode. Sir Davos. Sir Davos was an interesting character because he wasn't vying for the throne in so many ways. You could say he wasn't in the game, but unlike Littlefinger, he didn't think chaos was a ladder for him to climb. But he wasn't totally disconnected either. He had a few dogs in the fight, and he had a few people he was backing at different times. But it wasn't with the conniving energy of being thirsty about being close to power or trying to control people. He really believed and had some simple and solid principles. He was about his integrity, his honesty, and his loyalty. And his principles served as boundaries for him and made his character someone you could count on for certain things. And I kept thinking about Sir Davos because I felt like that's what it was. His integrity and his principles were boundaries that guided him and supported him and kept him really from getting sucked into a lot of the chaos. And I think this is important to keep in mind for you as well. Your boundaries, your big level yes, the things that are important to you, what it is that you want to create, asking yourselves those questions consistently and keeping that at the forefront of your mind as you're going into your day is going to be the important reminder you need to serve as an anchor and keep you solid in the midst of chaos. You're a creating maven. You're not about this game. You're not trying to treat chaos like a ladder to climb, nor are you trying to control it. You are the eye of the storm, and you're going to stay focused by asking yourself first, what am I creating? And then, what's my level 10 yes priority? Because you know it's coming, you're going to expect chaos and prepare for it. And when it does happen, you're going to accept it and just simply say, this is happening. It happens. Because you already know what you're about, what you want to create. You already know your level 10 yes, what you want. And you're going to rearrange the furniture in your life and declutter out all the things that are not your level 10 yes, so that you can remember and use Marie Kondo's wise words to stay focused on what sparks joy for you. So here's your homework. Today, you're going to practice this reframe for your internal environment. We're going to use today to help you prepare for tomorrow because you're a creating maven who expects that there's going to be some chaos on your job. And it's nothing to get worked up about. It's just the nature of the beast. So first, I want you to write down your level 10 yes priority for tomorrow. Maybe it's that thing that you're focused on creating right now. If it is, great. Write it down. Write it down right now. Like, yes, right now. Because you need a visual of this. Because when that email lands in your box and creates chaos and explodes your world, you need to have an anchor to remind you that you don't have time to get emotionally whiny about what's happening because you need to get back to your level 10 as quickly as humanly possible. So that's the first thing. Then I want you to write on a piece of paper these 2 short phrases. Things happen. This is happening. Then practice how you're going to say it out loud to yourself in a matter-of-fact tone, just the way that I did, when stuff is happening. So just repeat after me. Things happen. This is happening. So now you're prepared for tomorrow. You expect that something will pop off, but no worries. You have your level 10 yes priority at hand to anchor you back to where you need to get to as soon as you can handle things that need to be handled. And you've got 2 phrases to say that will help you accept things in the moment and not fall into absorbing the chaos. We're counting on you, my creating maven, because you have so much to offer, and we need you focused on creating so that you can make your unique contribution and leave a legacy you're proud of. If you've enjoyed this episode and others at Reframe to Create, then please rate and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps me with visibility so that other creating mavens like you can find it and join us on our journey. And the more the merrier, right? So please leave a review and tell me what you're loving and what you would like to hear more of. See you soon, creating maven. Until then, remember to always ask yourself, what will I create?